Dame Lillard, y'all know he wants to get to Miami, but what's most intriguing about today is he only wants to get to Miami. His agent has said that, yes, prospective trade partners, they've been calling, and he's picked up out of respect, but Miami is the destination for the seven-time All-Star. Why would you want an unhappy All-Star? Here is my thought, Slick, and I could not be more excited to have another conversation than this one. If there was a better one to have in sports right now, we would be leading with it, but instead, we're leading with this. I think that Dame Lillard should be more open-minded. When you think about players who have requested or demanded trades in basketball, in the modern basketball era, or at least the last 20, 23 years, usually it does not work. It is so, in my mind, egotistical that one could argue it's asinine to think you, a player, know more than a GM about what it would take and where you would land to win a championship. Many have tried, few have succeeded. Kawhi Leonard, he succeeded incidentally when he went to Toronto. He didn't even want to go to Toronto. Y'all go back and do your research if you really want clarification. He succeeded incidentally. But players who request a trade, leave, and it works out, it rarely happens. Rarely. You can leave in free agency, Kevin Durant. You can leave in free agency, LeBron James. But when you request out James Harden, it doesn't really work out to win a championship. Dame's leaving to win a championship. So in my mind, Dame should be more open-minded. Slick, what you think?
I agree. He should be, but I'm not going to fault him if he's not. Because the one thing that we don't know, one thing we assume is the reason that he wants to go is because he wants to play for a championship. Ultimately, ideally, win a championship. But as we know, when we make a decision to make a change, it's not always just one thing that drives us, right? And so I could make a case that he should be more open-minded because a lot of this depends on, if it is just winning a championship, well, what's coming back the other way? This isn't, I'm joining as a free agent, so I know what I'm joining. It's, well, what are they going to have to give up? And is that team still going to be championship caliber when they make the trade to get me? That's why be more open-minded. If it's really just about winning a championship, then Philadelphia, Boston, Milwaukee, like there are a number of other teams that I could put in the same category as Miami in terms of having a shot. Now, if it's, I want to play for a championship, but I'm looking at where I'm going to spend the next 2, 3, 4 years of my career, where I'm ultimately going to wrap it up, and where I would have the most likely long-term opportunity to chase a championship, then I understand why it would be Miami. Because I know that culture is established. I know that Eric Spoelstra's not going anywhere. I know that Pat Riley's not going anywhere. I know what they're about and have been about consistently. So they give me the better landing spot in terms of how I'm going to spend the next 3, 4 years. And that's why I don't fault him if he sticks to this. But if it is really about winning a championship, then I would be more open-minded.
Where you at with it, Joy?
How can you be intentional and open-minded? Seems a little bit of a conflicting ideology when you're talking about asking for a trade. Just send me anywhere. Free me from this.
I'm not saying anywhere.
Okay, but there's no point in being, free-willed about it to get out of Portland. If you're trying to win a championship, you should absolutely have a very, very short list. There's already a very short list of places that we actually think can compete for a championship that are actually competing for a championship year after year, or in that conversation, or have been to the finals at all. So,
but he doesn't have a list. He's got
the one. That's
one. Right, because you should make a list and then you start scratching things off based off of what you want. So he should be very intentional. The list should be quite short. And as you start to check things off, the list becomes even shorter if you are doing this with intention. Now, obviously, asking for a trade or demanding a trade then puts the team that you are with in a somewhat precarious position because they don't have the negotiating power that they would to send you multiple places. But this isn't a dysfunctional situation. This isn't it doesn't matter where he goes. It absolutely matters where he goes. And when you're looking over history, guys that have asked for trades and whether they've been successful or not, if you win a championship after you ask for a trade, it was a success. It doesn't matter what happens after that. And in a lot of these situations where guys ask for trades, they've already won championships. Shaq didn't start in LA. Remember, his career did not start in LA. He went to LA, won a championship, wanted to go to Miami, won a championship there.
Right.
So, like, we can go down the list of guys where there's plenty of examples of where it's worked and plenty of examples where it hasn't worked. To me, if I'm Dame, I'm being hyper intentional about where I'm going to go for the purpose of winning a championship, for my brand, for my family, for everything. And that list becomes very short.
Well, what you think?
And it's Miami. Let's add that to the list.
There's that.
I think, I'm sure there's a place that he wants to go, and it's Miami. It's said and done. But I'm pretty sure there's a few other teams that they're speaking with. And open-minded, meaning, like, if you're in line with what he is looking for, I'm sure he's going to entertain that. So just because I believe his agent said, like, anyone else call, you're going to get a disgruntled player, I read it as, like, anyone else that is not in contention for a championship, he's going to be disgruntled. So, I mean, I'm cool with them just saying, like, this is what we want. I remember when I was acting as OBJ's agent on Twitter. I said, look, don't send us anywhere else. LA only. LA only. Just because at this point, I feel like in OBJ's career, he's trying to contend for a title, get to a spot there. So here, yeah, that's a tough one. Be more open-minded. But if you're in line with what he wants, then yes, I can see him being more available for that.
I would say, like, I'm cool if he was doing what I believe Joy is saying and what Will is saying, if there was a short list. But based upon what his agent has recently said, he wants to play in Miami, period. I'm not enunciating the period symbol. He literally said, period.
Right.
So if he wants to play in Miami, period, that's where I have an issue.
But why should the list be longer?
In my mind, it's like anybody who desires a ring. Whether you desire a ring to play for championships or you desire a ring romantically. Yeah, you have your deal breakers, but you're not going to say, I only want you to fit this one specific criteria. Yep. You better be this tall or this short. You better make this exact amount of money. You better live in this god-dang city. To me, it's like, no, you have your deal breakers. You got your must-haves. I hope that you are going to be able to contend for a championship. Okay, now you say Milwaukee, you say Miami, you say Philly, you say Boston. Okay, are you an organization that has historically won championships? Okay, now that list might dwindle a little bit. Now you go Boston, and I go, well, Miami, or Milwaukee won one recently, Miami won one. Okay, are you an organization that has a star player I can depend on? Like, I think things would start to dwindle a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you're picking a life partner, you should have some pretty serious non-negotiables.
Oh, no doubt.
Do you have a good culture? How many of those teams have a good, solid culture? We know next year they will have a good culture, unequivocally.
I'm saying
Two of them got
Milwaukee.
new coaches.
Milwaukee and Miami.
New coaches. They have a new coach in Milwaukee.
Congratulations. I don't care. They have Giannis.
Okay, well, you might not care, but the new regime can come with a little bit of rockiness.
Yeah, but Adrian Griffin's not coming in there to rock the boat.
I don't even care about that.
You just fired your head coach. You don't count if you just fired your head coach. I'm sorry.
Honestly, Bud was in trouble before he won that championship.
So you're saying there were problems in the building before the coach was fired?
I'm saying they had issues with the way that Bud was making in-game decisions.
I don't think that the culture is bad in Milwaukee. But you just hired a new head coach, by the way, who has never been a head coach before. I'm Damian Lillard, and I'm putting my future in the hands of someone who has never coached before. Okay? Maybe he's great. Maybe he's the greatest coach ever. We have absolutely no idea.
I don't mind the knock on what they might be as a schematically. It's the culture that I would say I'm not worried about. When you have Chris Middleton, who's a 10-year vet, Drew Holiday,
you're not worried about it. But if I'm Damian,
I'm considering
that.
Yeah.
The Sixers have never been past the second round with Joel Embiid. They have a new coach. Now, a proven coach,
right,
but it's a new coach. Boston's interesting, but Boston hasn't been able to put it together. They've lost a very crucial defensive piece. That there's some questions there, but they have the same head coach. They're a returning head coach. They have returning stars. We could negotiate what we would move around here in Boston. So really, it's already down to, if you're talking about to security, you're talking about Boston and Miami. Like, the list already got shorter.
But you're predicating it off the fact that a team that has a new head coach, you're just discounting them.
I am Damian Lillard. I'm not you, fan of Giannis. I'm not me, fan of
It's not fan of Giannis. It's fan of reality.
I am a fan of reality.
That's a big deal.
A new thing.
Okay, but here's the flip side of this. Because without question, if you want to talk about culture or you want to talk about the pieces that are there, Miami Heat has the advantage there.
Right.
Exactly. They are the most established. But if I'm talking about winning a championship, am I convinced that me joining them is going to be the formula to beat everybody else as opposed to me joining Giannis and the Bucks.
Okay.
Or me and Joel Embiid and a championship coach in Nick Nurse. That's the question. And, excuse me, if you want to say, Miami has everything that I want, convince me, Philadelphia or Milwaukee, why you have more of what I want. That, to me, is being open-minded, as opposed to saying, I've already looked at you, Milwaukee. I've already looked at you, Philadelphia. I am going to Miami no matter what.
We're implying through this conversation that Dame hasn't already done that. Like, what is the secret that Milwaukee's going to reveal to Dame that's going to convince him based off of he just rolled over one day and was like, South Beach, you're the one.
Well, quite literally in that interview off rip, they was like, well, Dame, you know, a couple teams you might want to play for.
Let's be serious. Okay, right. Damian Lillard has considered where he wants to go play for his future. He's watched other teams. He's spoken to other players. He knows what coaches are there. He knows what the coaching that's coming into Milwaukee and that's coming into Philadelphia, what comes with that. Like, let's not treat Dame like he just rolled over yesterday and decided that it was Miami.
No, but I would want to talk to Giannis about Adrian Griffin. I would want to talk to their GM about the new coach. I would want to talk to Nick Nurse about how he sees the Philadelphia 76ers and what his plan for them is. I'm not saying that Miami doesn't have a leg up and that he already knows what's there and you'd have to convince him otherwise. I'm just saying there's enough new moving parts that I want to see, what's your plan, Philadelphia? How do you, what would I bring to the table? What would you have there? And I think it's close enough to consider, especially if you're leaving Portland to say, I want to win a championship. I want to check every box. I want to check every possibility.
And I think he is.
For that.
I think he is checking every box.
I don't know. It doesn't
no,
sound like that. It sounds like it's Miami or bust.
Well, that's what they put out there.
He personally has, I'm sure, spoken with his agents and the people that he trusts and other people around the league. Just because he's not walking us through every step of what got him to this decision for Miami doesn't mean that those steps weren't taken.
The only thing is, all I can do is operate under the information that we have been given, information that we have read, the information
I'm going to assume that Damian is a grown man who is a veteran in the league who has taken the time to consider every level of what this decision comes with and where he would like to go. Just because he hasn't brought us behind the curtain of how that process has gone, I would trust that he's considered everything that's going on in Philadelphia, everything that's going on in Milwaukee, everything that's going on in Boston.
Okay, but there is one element that he can't quite judge yet, which is, what are they giving up to get me? Because we don't know that.
They can send them wherever they want.
No. But I'm saying, if I'm going to go to Miami, what is Miami giving up for me to go there?
What are they losing? Right.
Because literally, I know this for a fact. When Chris Paul was leaving the New Orleans, I don't know if they were the Hornets or the Pelicans, whatever they were at the time, right? When he was leaving New Orleans, and he was looking at the Lakers and the Clippers, he was literally in those conversations in terms of who was going to be coming back the other way, and said, no, I don't want you to trade X. X has to be there for me to go there.
Right.
So that would be the question for me if I'm Damian looking at it. Okay, who is Boston or who would Philly be giving up? Who would Miami be giving up? Who would Milwaukee be giving up? And then let me look at that and see if everything is still equitable and Miami is still ahead of the other 2 or 3 in that case.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.